Let's do this. And we're live. For those of you that don't know, guess what time it is? Thank you everybody for tuning in. It's a big shout out to What's Up YouTube. It is June the 23rd of 2019. And boy, oh boy, are we here for the next rendition of the live stream. Welcome to the Big Blowout, also known as the weekly lawn and garden show, with your host, the Grass Factor. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Martin. I am a turf grass guy out of currently in Knoxville, Tennessee. I built the 10-year career in the turf market. I started in golf and ended in lawn care. Unfortunately, my turf manager job came to an end last year at sometime around November to start my next venture known as Carbon Earth. I was the product developer behind Carbon X and now X Green, along with a few other people. A few more important people, I must add. Big shout out to John Borden and Jim Ryder and the infamous David, the industrial engineer David. And a big shout out to my dad too, because my dad definitely played a big part in that as well. So, after I made the reround, I have made my way still here on the old YouTube, doing what I love to do, and that's talking grass. I don't know a whole lot in this world, but I tell you what I do know, and that is a little bit about growing grass. So, I think that's enough of an intro. I think we're going to move into the part of the show that I typically refer to as the roll call. I know we're a little early. It's 9:01. I haven't really given a lot of people a whole lot of time to jump in here, but I thought I'd go ahead and get started on this. I'm not going to lie. I'm super excited to be doing the show tonight. I mean, I'm just fired up. I'm just fired up today. We had a nice weekend. We had a great weekend, and we got a lot. Hey, Marco, I really appreciate it, sir. There's absolutely no reason you need to do that. No reason at all. Thank you so much. Yeah, we had a big weekend. My wife and I had a good time. Went out with some of our friends last night, and then today we went down to the dam in Loudon, Fort Loudon, and got to see all the water running over the dam where they're trying to get the flood stages back down to normal, and took a bunch of pictures out on the dock and all that fun stuff. So yeah, and had a real nice strong weekend. In a week in Kentucky this last week. We got a lot accomplished out there, and for those of you that have been following the Carbon Earth story, Kentucky is a bit of an enigma to me because it seems like, as we move through this phase of the startup, we've had many, many difficulties, but a lot of those have really started to smooth out here recently, and we're going to keep continuing to build on that. Because that's what you do, right? You take the good with the bad, and you continue to put one foot in front of the other until it all works out. So again, I'm Matt Martin. I'm the Grass Factor, and I'll be your host tonight. So I announced the roll call. Let's do it one more time. The roll call. Let's get on over here. The first, number one in the hearts is Terry Finch. What is up, sir? But a close second. A close second was Telly Coleman. He slid in here. It was just a hair late on the first, but he did get second, and he claimed it. And, of course, Lushy. Oh, Lushy Lawns slid in here, too, as well. What's going on, Lushy? My friend Aaron, not Aaron, up in Boston. That's what I'm talking about. Richard Nettles. That was a terrible Bostonian accent. I'm very sorry, Aaron. Richard, how are you, good sir? Mr. Nettles Lambert, one of my favorite attorneys. I've got three favorites. He's one of them. Oh, man, look at you. Y'all had a good time over there. Shane Brady took a half day off. That's a rare thing. Shane is probably the hardest working lawn guy I know. I've never seen him ever take a moment off. And Shane, don't you have a day job too? or are you primarily on lawns full time now? That's bananas. I have to say, you're the hardest working guy in lawn care. Let's see. DSPO, welcome, sir. Welcome. I know you're not exactly new, but you're a little bit kind of new. I'll give you that. We got PPC in the house. Paul's Prime Cuts, the official master tester of Carbon Earth, out there in Sweet Pete, North Carolina, doing all kinds of fuzzy stuff for us. That's what I'm talking about. Master beta tester. We got Jim Keene in the house. Mr. Richard Bryan. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm glad you are here. Who else we got? We got Trimec M, who is concerned about overdose and fungicides causing any discoloration issues in bluegrass and ryegrass. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I will answer this for everybody out loud. Is it possible? Yes, absolutely. What is that rate? I can't tell you that. But here are the class fungicides that typically have the issues, and those are our DNI fungicide. Is that right? DNI, yes, DNI fungicide. So propiconazole, myclobutanil, those are DNIs, and they have growth regulatory effects, and so you can over-regulate the plant. In fact, it'll even kind of nub the root system on them if you go at too high of a rate. So you have to be careful with the active ingredient you're doing. You never want to exceed your label rate, because that's exactly what can happen. And let me tell you, I'm the guy that has sprayed propiconazole in 88-degree weather thinking it was going to be okay. Well, it was 88 on my dashboard. Real life on the grass is probably around 92, and it absolutely smoked the grass to the ground, to the point where I didn't have to worry about the rust anymore because the grass was that toasted. So be careful. Be very careful. DSPO wants to know, what's the difference between 818 and CX? 818 is a completely homogenized biochar, poultry litter, humic acid, kelp, sulfate of potash, ammonium sulfate, ferrous sulfate, homogenized greens grade product. So it's a superfine prill size. It was designed to be applied to golf greens, and it was designed to dissolve really quickly into the turf canopy. Now, it's not 100% soluble. There's poultry litter in it. There's biochar in it. Those two are not soluble. So there's a big difference. And basically, everything that is soil bound in the CX, it's double in X Green, because what we do is we take that 818 and we blend it 50-50 with a different homogenized nitrogen source, and that's what gives us Carbon X. X Green is just that homogenized portion that we manufacture in-house. And we do the 818 as a standalone product as the greens grade because we get a different release curve out of it in the smaller prill size. And if you've ever worked with something that is high in organic material, it's difficult to predict the release curve. So by taking the poultry manure and combining it with the biochar, with the humic acid, you get this incredible spike in microbial activity, both in beneficial bacteria and beneficial fungi. And what happens is that you typically get a faster mineralization of that organic matter that's in the material. So when we were putting it out and watching what would happen, we noticed we were getting somewhere between 10 and 14 days faster response on the 818 than we were as a greens grade product as we were as a standard 220 SGN on it. So that's why we sell the 818 only as a greens grade product, to give you a more consistent, predictable result. How about that? Real O'Dad, Big Mike, the Blue Mule checking in. Sun 99 is here. What's going on? Aaron Watkins is here. Striper Man, somewhere up there, New England coast, over here sending me stickers. What's going on, Striper Man? Glad you're here. We're True Creek Brothers till the day we die. Nobody can take it away from us. I don't care what they say. Gravy Lookout is here with German opera in the background with these artistic videos that just make me want to grab my camera, run outside, and shoot something. Mark Macchione, how are you, my favorite Italian friend? I'm assuming your last name is Italian. I don't know why I said that. I'm really sorry. John Teague, I did get the new reel in. I have not put it on. Social Port, glad you're here, sir. B. Willis, glad you're here. Garrett Scott, Chris S. Ooh, Sneaky Green. Jeffrey Hensley Randor. Sliding on in. We got the Grass Daddy is here. I don't want to get in trouble with the wife, so saying a quick hi and then going back to quality time. I hear you, G-Daddy. I hear you, G-Daddy. Larry Nelson's here. Michigan. Mike Rapini. Marco Canchola. What is going on from West Covina, California? That's what I'm talking about. Are you live from the apartment, a.k.a. Matt Stabbin Cabin? No, I am live from my house. I'm in my little homemade studio here in the back room, if you know what I'm saying. Kyle, Ben, y'all, Andrew Phillips. What is going on? Andrew Phillips, if one thing I could recommend you do is you check out the other videos that are out on YouTube. People are definitely putting some videos out about it. We got the Yard Mama is here. What's going on, Yard Mama? Robert Butler's here. George Popa. Man, we got all kinds of stuff going on. And we just jumped down to the bottom, and I see we got questions coming out the Xing Yang. So we're going to jump all over. There's Lawn Care Addicts, good sir. Lawn Strike, Future Farmer, Lawn Noob. What's going on? Chip Dixon. Woo! Steve Wright, Brian Jones, St. Louis Lawn Guru. We're going to jump in here and start with this question right here. I've got a long-winded question about zoysia grass. I have a few zoysia lawns that are experiencing winter kill. I've applied dethatch and humic 12 on opposite weeks. Unfortunately, temps have been low, and the customer has been mowing as frequently as I want. Looking to see if I'm missing anything, considering I don't have, I've done the soil correction for the pH. Still from the zoysia question. We're going to jump down here and see if we have any more. I've got a very large company. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. Look at that, St. Louis Long. You'll be hearing from them soon. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so we'll talk about zoysia grass with winter kill because I've dealt with this a lot. And where I am, particularly in Knoxville, I've seen it more often than not. And I didn't see it just a ton when I was in Memphis. Occasionally we would, but mostly here, yes, it happens somewhat often. And this is going to sound so crazy, but this is typically what I do when I'm dealing with winter kill in zoysia grass. Heat that freaking soil surface up, whatever you got to do. If you got to top dress it with compost, something black, rich material, make sure you're balanced on your NPK. So, this may be a time when you're going for that relatively strong push of rhizomatic action. You may want to use something like a soluble triple 20 and spray it out. And don't be scared to go a little higher on your nitrogen to get it to grow in, considering that you've got so many bare areas. Aeration, mechanically aerating is going to be good in this instance. If you can get up the plugs, that would be even better. And why that would be good is, one, you're going to perk that water into that root zone. The other thing, too, is that you're opening it up to additional heat. So what would be super ideal is if you could actually aerate it, collect your plugs, and then top dress into it with something black sand, or compost, something of that. Heat it up. Then the other thing too is that for whatever reason, zoysia likes a lot of iron during that growing period. If you ran like an iron and manganese supplement in combination with nitrogen versus just nitrogen on zoysia grass, you'll notice two tremendously different rates of grow-in response from it. I don't 100% know why that is, but at least in my experience, that's what I have seen. And I've seen that in Georgia. I've seen it in Tennessee. I've seen it in the other side of Tennessee, and I've seen it in Mississippi. I don't know why it is, but I have seen it, and it consistently performs for me. So, like, for instance, one of the products I would use is that there's a one by Lebanon Turf that's a roots product that had, all your tricks and goodies in it, but it had a high rate of iron with a little bit of manganese in it. And for some reason, I always got a very consistent response pushing that grass with it. So, if you want to send me your soil test, please feel free to do that. I'd love to take a look at them and see if there's anything that's just sticking out on it, but probably not. Winter kills, winter kills, winter kills, winter kill. At that point, it's just getting it to grow back in, right? Let's see. Vladimir Martinez. What's wrong with my lawn? Too much rain has caused my grass to turn brown. Any thoughts? I don't know what turf type you have, Vladimir, and I don't know where you're located because that could influence my answer pretty significantly. But if you're dealing with too much rain, I'm guessing you're somewhere in the Midwest right now, because that seems to be where everybody's getting the most rain, and you probably have a cool season grass, and you're probably dealing with leaf spot or dollar spot. Both of those are diseases that tend to come about when you're dealing with periods of nutty rain. So if I were you, I would properly identify if you have dollar spot based on the type of lesions you have, or you have leaf spot based on the type of lesions you had, and then choose the appropriate fungicide accordingly. How about them apples? Thoughts on Q4 Plus for my fine fescue lawn? I just use it for spot spraying. You can do that, Gravy. There's not going to really be any major issue with that. With it being on fine fescue, I would expect some tip burn with it. Don't be discouraged by it. It will grow out, especially since you're in peak growing season. You may get a little ding or two on it, but it'll grow out. And at the rate your grass is growing right now, it'll grow out pretty quickly. Richard Freeman, thank you for your support, sir. Thank you very much. Now, I mean that. Kevin Meyer, I'm glad you made it for your first show, Mr. Meyer. One of my clients has Jonathan grass, a grass that is popular in Jersey. White clover was popping up, so I used a bottle of Spectracide to kill the clover, but it burnt the grass as well as the weeds. It can happen, Agav Bond, and it probably happened due to temperature or not getting water on it in time. So if you think about it, when you apply an herbicide is selective in that it typically targets the weed you apply it to, but it can be formulated with a salt. So if you look on an active ingredient label, you'll see salt of dicamba, salt of 2,4-dipropyl acid. And just the salt content that exists in that formulation alone, outside of the actual herbicide itself, can cause tip burn. So that's why it's super important you pay attention to rates and suggestions in that label as pertains to the weeds you're going after. And if you use a bottle of Spectracide, the one that like attaches on a hose and spray, and you get out there and spray it, you have nowhere near enough control over your rate. Drop that like a bad habit. Go get you a backpack sprayer. Read your labels. Make an application with the backpack sprayer using the appropriate nozzle. Get rid of the hose-in sprayers for weed control. Hose-in sprayers for fertilizer, great. No big deal there. Hose-in sprayers for weed control, ditch it. Do it with a backpack. You'll thank me. Full-time instructor with the Nebraska Army National Guard for 3 more years. Attaboy, Shane. Like I said, the hardest working guy in lawn care. What's up, Paul Manicone? Added the map like you suggested. Lawn's looking great. Hey, thank you, sir. I'm glad that you put that out and that it's working out well for you. That is good to know. For those of you that are wondering what map is, Paul sent me a soil test and he was extremely low in phosphorus, and so I recommended monoammonium phosphate as his phosphorus source, and it worked out well. Thank goodness. Kevin Meyer, hey Matt, looking to spike 4-speed with quinclorac to boost efficacy in target crabgrass. Can I run a reduced rate of the quinclorac as a kicker, or should it be added at label is law rate? Okay, Kevin, this is actually a good point. So if your intent is to target crabgrass, you would not drop the rate of quinclorac as a kicker. If you're targeting crabgrass plus some broadleaf weeds, quinclorac alone is a broadleaf herbicide. So what you would be doing is using the 4-speed as the kicker to the quinclorac. So again, targeting crabgrass with a few broadleaf weeds, you would want to run a full rate of quinclorac and then a reduced rate of 4-speed. You could probably get away with running 1 ounce per 1,000 of 4-speed with a full rate of quinclorac. Now, one thing to remember, what does the label say about quinclorac for maximum efficacy when it comes to crabgrass? You must run with a methylated seed oil. Do not forget to do that, even though you do have a 1 ounce kicker of 4-speed in the tank. Is there anything I can do to save the burnt grass, or am I going to have to wait till the fall and reseed? Hope my client doesn't fire me. There's not really. You kind of have to let it run its course. Fertilize it would be great. Do something to push out all that damaged growth, because the leaves of the plant that are currently damaged are not going to magically turn into green leaves again. You've got to grow them out through new shoot growth. So you want to apply something like kelp that would help stimulate that shoot growth. And you would also want to apply fertilizer. Get some fertilizer on it and try and grow it out. Do not apply anything to try and retard the growth of the grass. You want to try and speed up the growth of the grass. Get aggressive with it. First time on live chat from South Florida. What's going on, John Bank from SoFlo? Is Milo good to use as a starter fert? It's not bad to use as a starter fert, but remember the phosphorus that's in Milo has to be mineralized in order to be plant available. So put it down earlier for the intention of your seeding date. Okay, so it may take 4 weeks before it to become plant available. So just make sure you do that correctly timed. Barbecue Freak Show. I have no idea when 818 is going to be available to homeowners. We are still in the planning process because, again, here's one thing I don't know is I don't know the homeowner market. So what we have to do is understand our production schedule versus what demand will be, and we're still working behind the scenes like some algorithm calculator writers to figure that out, because right now we just do not know what that looks like. So I'm not going to even tease you with when that date may be. I have zero clue. How do you kill chameleon plant? And I have to say, this sounds like a Florida weed because I've never heard of it. So I'm going to look it up and see if I recognize it. I do not recognize it. I have never come across this. It almost looks like a hosta of some sort. In fact, some of these pictures look really beautiful with the variegation on it. But I can tell by looking at it that it is a dicot, and a broadleaf herbicide would work on it extremely well. Something that is ester-based and works on woodier plants or plants with stronger... Oh, there's some that doesn't look pretty. I see what you're talking about there. Something that contains fluroxapyr, 2,4-D, triclopyr, maybe even a 2,4-D and quinclorac combination will take that plant out just fine. All right, let's keep going here. Get it done, man. Would you fertilize X-Milorganite prior to installing Zoysia Zenith sod? It depends on your soil test. See, dude, so with you putting in Zenith Zoysia, I would probably go ahead and put down a starter fertilizer. Would I use Milorganite? Personally, no, I would not. I would use something like monoammonium phosphate or something more traditional like Chris Elms. Chris Elms referred me over to monopotassium phosphate, also known as MKP, by a company called Haifa. And he's shown me some pretty amazing things he's done with that product. So using something expensive like Zenith Zoysia, I would probably use a product like the Haifa MKP or monoammonium phosphate. Hi, Aaron Baker. That's pretty funny. Joshua Parrish. I'm 32 from Tennessee. How would you use prodiamine, simazine, and MSM together as a pre-emergent strategy? Combo Bermuda. I would run it as a single tank mix, Joshua Parrish. So I would run the first tank mix, we'll say like January, February timeframe, prodiamine, simazine, MSM. And then the second application, I would probably run prodiamine, simazine, and MSM again as a second application 6-8 weeks later. So that's exactly how I would do it. I would not try and split those up and do one, then the other, then the other, then the other, because the study on herbicide resistance shows that 3 modes of action is 83 times less likely to develop herbicide resistance than 2.5 modes of action. So you've got 3 modes of action right there. I would run it as a tank mix and call it good, and guaranteed you're going to have great results from it. John Bank has a St. Augustine lawn. I have a small amount of Bermuda lightly scattered around my lawn in Florida. I wish it was out, but is hand pulling it pointless? It pretty much is. I can't really give you a whole lot of advice on that. If you've got the time and the money and the wherewithal and the dedication to spray frequently all year long, and maybe by year number 4 get rid of it, then you could probably run a tank mix of ethifumicate, also known as Prograss, also known as Poa Constrictor, in combination with atrazine. If you're not a licensed applicator, it's going to be difficult for you to get atrazine at the proper concentrations because it is a restricted use product. So chances are you probably just have to live with it. There's not really a whole lot you can do. Let's see. First time user of Carbon X and have yet to drop mine here in Texas. How experienced should I be in order to use it at the 3 pound per 1,000 square foot rate? You don't have to be. So it's, 3 pounds per 1,000. That's label rate. So even if you misapply, say like double, and you're able to get it watered in, you're not really going to be running into a big issue because even double, you're still only talking somewhere around a pound and a tenth of quick release nitrogen in one application. Some people do that via liquid, so you can do it as a granular as well. The experience should come in the fact that, when you look at a bag of Carbon X, look at the, I'm talking out of one side of my mouth. You can use it just like you would a bag of Scotch from Home Depot. So if you feel comfortable putting out a bag of Scotch from Home Depot, you should feel comfortable putting out a bag of Carbon X because it's different ingredients, but it all functions the same way. Let's see. Semi-long time watcher, second app Disease X, still seeing brown patch lesions, surf type tall fescue. And you're probably running into that because Disease X is granular and it's still going to limit you. Now, second of all, if you want to email me a picture of it, I will confirm for you whether or not I think those are actually brown patch, because I will say some dollar spot lesions and some gray leaf spot lesions can look very similar to brown patch. Not to say that you're wrong there. Then the other part of that is that azoxystrobin is most effective when applied foliarly, because there's two modes of uptake of azoxystrobin. It is systemic. It is going to grow into the plant, but it does like to have that contact on the leaf surface. You want it as close to the disease as possible when taken into the plant, so you don't have to move that concentration throughout the plant, because as you move it over a larger area, it becomes less concentrated over a larger area. So I typically prefer to apply it as a liquid. Do I have to apply PPZ and azoxy on the same day to prevent resistance, or can I separate them by a week? You would actually have to spray them in the same tank mix, Gary. So not that you would do it one day and then the other day. You would actually combine them in the tank and apply them at the same time. Hi, Matt. Can you give your opinion about peat's natural advocate and the science behind it? What does the yucca plant do? Also, is there an alternative to it I can buy online? I don't know. I have never really looked into it. Yucca is a well-known, very well-researched surfactant. And I don't know a whole lot more other than that. I can look into it. It's just, I got about 30 different things I'm looking into right now. And I know there are lots of people that use yucca out there right now. So, I just haven't put a whole lot of time into researching it. How many times a growing season can you apply Aerate and Humic 12? I don't know what that limit is. I would probably reach out to one of the Greene County Fertilizer guys and see if they have any input on that. Polo fields in the building. That's what I'm talking about. Sure, those eyes from 17 Hour a Day weren't Falk Daddy eyes. John Guthridge! Falkenstein! Go Balls! Man, that is one of my old buddies right there in the house. What is up, John G? Woo! That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. Connor, what are you doing? There ain't nothing dirty here. Welcome to the show, Connor. Connor Ward, not Connor Earth, not Carvin Earth. A little Freudian slip there. Carbon X didn't turn on really dark green. We have a ton of rain in Michigan. Can this be the reason why I put down RGS with iron mix and 5 days later, Humic 12 and iron mix? Could be. It also could be, man, Ronald, there's a lot of reasons that went into it. What rate did you apply? Did you apply at 3 pounds per 1,000? What's the pH of your soil? And how much rain did you get following the application? There's a lot of different variables that go into that. Hey, Carbon X is better than Doc's PGF, right? I looked into it the other day, just curious what it was, and I'm going to tell you this right now. Richard, I'm not going to get into any kind of statement that Carbon X is better than any other fertilizer, because here is the fact of the situation. All products are a tool in the toolbox. And everyone has strengths, everyone has weaknesses. So I'm not going to get into a TT match over who's does what and does it better. What I can say is that looking at it is that it has methylene urea, sulfate of potash, and iron oxide in it. If you have a soil pH over a 6, the iron in it is not going to be plant available because it is a ferric iron. Plants can only use ferrous iron because ferrous iron is soluble. Ferric iron is not soluble unless you have a solution less than a pH of 6. The more acidic, the easier it goes into solution. So when I look at it, I just don't see anything that's very complete about it because there's iron in it, and that's not soluble. There is a higher pH solution of a linardite, which is going to temporarily raise the pH of the soil when you apply it. And then there's a little bit of methylene urea and sulfate of potash. So there's nothing wrong with it in terms of fertilizer. It's just not a very complete fertilizer, and it's only really going to work on acidic soils very well. And also warm season soils, because methylene urea is broken down and released through microbial mineralization, right? So microbes have to digest those carbon chains, those formaldehyde chains that are attached to the urea particle. So I'm not going to say one is better than the other. I'm just going to say it's different, and that Carbon X definitely has way more in the bag than the PGF does. So apparently I messed up and learned that I have some what is possibly Dallas grass instead of crabgrass. Hit it with triclopyr and fusillade today. What's typical kill rate of first time spray? A typical kill rate of first time spray, 0. You're not going to be able to spray it once and kill it. It's going to take multiple applications to get rid of it. How many? I don't know. Fusillade is going to be your best bet. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. You'll have to stay on it, continue to apply, continue to apply. White Trash Tyler, what's going on, man? That's my kind of guy right there. I'd hang out with you, buddy. I'd buy you a beer tomorrow. Hey, Grass Factor, I put down an application of T-Nex today. Do you think that the grass will get thicker and crowd out the quack-rack patches I have? It depends on your turf type, Tyler. I don't know. I can say that I'm seeing really weird things using paclobutrazole on my fescue. I have a rhizomatous tall fescue on my in my front yard, and putting the paclo on it, I haven't dug up the grass yet to confirm, but just visually inspecting it, it does look like it has thickened up significantly, and I'm actually going to look and see if I see any rhizomatic action, because I thought this would be in year 2. I'm not going to see any, but the density that I'm seeing out there just leads. I see some weird things going on. Will T-Nex do that, crowd out your quack-rack patches? I don't know. If you're with Bermuda grass and you got quack grass, I would recommend real mowing it, because it is not going to like that low height of cut. And then if you apply something like T-Nex with good fertility and real mowing, then yeah, you'll get rid of your quack grass. Other than that, if you're dealing with cool season grass, you may want to try applications of something like Fusillade that we were talking about up here. Fusillade, also known as fluazepop. It is a grassy weed control product, and the one that's labeled for home lawns is known as Ornamec Over the Top, and that's readily available to purchase. And you can spray your quackgrass with that if you have cool season turf. So, not knowing all the story, that's my answer. Grass type, common Bermuda. Location, Fate, Texas. Problem, seeing black moldy fungus at ground level and not on the grass. How do I treat this? Andrew Phillips, you probably cannot. What you're seeing most likely is algae development, and if you have water that is not perking through the soil very well, then that means you have water sitting on the surface and you're probably having algal blooms there. So what can you do about this? Try to do things to encourage the movement of that water into your soil. You're in Fate, Texas. I don't know where that is, north, south, east, and west. Let me pull up the old Google machine here. Fate, Texas is located near Rockwall County. You are... Okay, Dallas area. So Dallas area, you're dealing with typically high pH soils. You can definitely improve penetration through flocculating the soil, getting those clay colloids to bond together. Big shout out to Ray, the green doc of the lawn site and lawn forum. he did a very good job of breaking this down for me so that I understood it really well. When you're dealing with high pH soils like that, you want to do something to flush the carbonates, the excess carbonates out of the soil. That's why you have high pH, is that you have excess carbonates in the soil. So you'll want to do something like apply citric acid. Citric acid is going to tie up those carbonates and flush them out, right? And basically neutralize your excess carbonates. Then you're going to apply something behind it to flocculate the soil, cause those clay colloids to pull together and help create better movement of water and nutrients through your soil profile. Mechanically aerating can help, and as always, when you mechanically aerate, try to get rid of your plugs. Scoop them up, haul them off, get rid of them, get rid of the plugs. Those are no bueno. Again, the idea there is to help water move down. And if you're looking for something to flocculate the soil, after you've removed your excess carbonates, you can do something like humic acid. You could also do polymers. Polymers, like I talk about the liquid aeration video, and one of the polymers I talked about there was Soiltech and the Turf 2 Max brand. Those do the same thing. They use a polymer to flocculate the soil. That one actually has an in-can acid in it that will work to remove and flush those excess carbonates so the polymers can flocculate the soil. That's all in a single can solution. So you may want to look at something like that. That's a really long-winded answer, but that's it kind of required that. Hey Matt, put down prodiamine a little late. I have broadleaf plantain, white clover, dandelion, and a few other weeds. I'm in Connecticut and have Kentucky bluegrass. Very easy, Gary Avery. So the herbicide you could use, where to buy Carbonex, you can hop on over to Pete with GCI Turf and Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut, lawncarenut.com. I think Alan's got it in stock right now, so you could probably check it out there. Then for the herbicide, you would want to use something that contains fluroxypyr and 2,4-D, just a generic 3-way or 4-way herbicide will take care of that. So like my favorite, for instance, where you're at right there, I would be looking at something like 4-Speed XT by NuFarm. I think NuFarm, Valent, NuFarm, is that who does it? I think it is who does it. 4-Speed XT is probably my straight purest favorite broadleaf herbicide. Okay, Robert Butler says, hey Matt, I'm in New Jersey and I have turf type tall fescue, bluegrass, and rye lawn. We just got out of nearly a week's worth of rain and I've got fungus all over. Will Azoxy 2SC alone at the curative rate get it under control? Robert, I don't know what fungus you have, so I can't say yes. Here's the reason why. If you have dollar spot in your lawn and you apply Azoxy 2SC, you will make your dollar spot worse. Dollar spot is not going to be controlled by Azoxy 2SC, so it's imperative you identify accurately the disease you have so you can choose the appropriate fungicide. So in the event you're dealing with a patch disease like brown patch, and if you're in New Jersey, I don't know if you're going to be dealing with that right yet. Could be. I don't know. I honestly don't know. If you're dealing with brown patch or gray leaf spot or leaf spot, yeah, you could apply Azoxy 2SC, no problem. But if you're dealing with dollar spot, don't do it. Party Girl 44 says, hey, I'm getting some brown spots in my lawn again. Dollar spot, pretty sure as always. I put down Ringer. Since it's going to be hot in 80s all week, right choice, thought synthetic might burn it. Just because it's hot in 80s doesn't mean synthetic is going to burn your lawn. And I'll say a little bit about this is that when it comes to fertilizer burn, all fertilizer has a salt index, right? And so that is their fertilizer salts. And I'm not talking about sodium salts. So potassium chloride, often used in the health food market as no salt, right? Still tastes like salt when you eat it because it is a salt ion. That potassium chloride is a salt ion, has a salt index, and can burn the grass at certain temperatures. However, if you pay attention to bag labels will give you a recommended rate. So even though you may be hot and 80, if you apply in that label rate, you should be okay, assuming you get it watered in appropriately. Again, Ringer, you may be putting down Ringer, but how long is it going to take Ringer to release to drive out that diseased turf? it may take something like that, where it comes from brewer's yeast or whatever their manufacturing process is, where their waste stream for their organic matter. It may take 1 month, it may take 2 months, it may take 3 months for it to really release to the point of being able to push out that growth. So in my opinion, what I would be doing is I would be applying something like ammonium sulfate and sulfate of potash to push it out. And I would probably be putting iron and manganese on top of it as well. Matt, I'll send you the soil test from that Zoysia lawn. Whoa. And I appreciate the answer. I applied CX in 1801 to it as well, so it has had about 1.25 pounds of nitrogen in the last 4 weeks. That's a good start. That is a good start. Give me that soil test. I'll see if anything just sticks out to me, but I think you're on the right track. Stacy Norton, have a lawn full of Dallas grass. Help. Very easy. Tribute total. If you go back and look through the history of my videos, my whole backyard was nothing but Dallas grass, and I killed it. And I'll tell you exactly how I did it. It was very simple. I did a broadcast application of Monument, followed by a broadcast application of Tribute Total, followed by a broadcast application of Tribute Total. Simple. Got rid of it. Let's see here. And that would apply to you too, Barney Barger. Apply to you too. Monument, trifloxysulfuron, followed by Tribute Total, which is a combination of iodosulfuron, thion carbazone, forum sulfuron, and halosulfuron. Gravy Lookout says, MAP, what rate do you apply MAP? And I will tell you, it is based on how much phosphorus your soil needs. So if you look at your soil test, you'll get a recommendation that it says, apply 4 pounds in, 1 pound of phosphorus and 2 pounds of potassium. If that's your recommendation is 1 pound of actual phosphorus, then when you apply something like MAP, which is like a 13-52-0, and you need to apply 1 pound, then you would apply it at 2 pounds per thousand. If you need 2 pounds of phosphorus, then you would apply it at 4 pounds per thousand. Just like you calculate nitrogen, is the same way you would calculate phosphorus when determining your application rate of phosphorus. Matt, are you aware of any new herbicides coming out in the next few years that show promise for selective control of grassy weeds such as Dallas grass? I know I'm dreaming. No, social report, you're not. Tribute Total still works very well for Dallas grass. If you're in cool season lawns, a combination of fluazepop, fusilade, and Pilex works very well for Dallas grass. There is one called Manuscript. Manuscript is released by Syngenta and has shown very good control of mature grassy weeds in warm season turf. I think it's limited to Bermuda grass only. I have not studied the label enough to say, but actually no, it's looking like Bermuda grass, Zoysia grass, and St. Augustine. So there you go. But that is Manuscript, and I will tell you right now, Manuscript is not cheap, but it should work well. Let's see, put down over the top, 18% sethoxidum last week. Trying to get Bermuda out of my centipede. The label says that it may require more than one app, but does not specify the timing. Any idea? When you begin to see recovery of your centipede to the point where it looks safe to spray again, you're safe to spray again. Remember, you want to allow that damaged turf, the collateral damage, to begin to show signs of life again so photosynthesis can resume, and then make your next application. If your Bermuda grass is recovering faster than your centipede is, that's not good. You probably want to wait until fall when Bermuda grass is going through its carbohydrate storage phase. So we're actually past the summer solstice now, so that's beginning to jump into effect. But you got to remember that as we start moving into September, the growth of the turf is going to slow pretty significantly. And so you can start making applications then and hopefully get it knocked out before going into winter. It might come back again next year and you'll have to repeat the same process. But year after year after year of doing that, you should be able to get it under control. C-Dude007 says, get it done, Matt. Would you fertilize with Milorganite or slow-release synthetic prior to installing Zoysia Zenith sod? I would fertilize personally with synthetic, and I probably wouldn't do a slow-release either. I would just do all quick-release. And I was talking earlier about monoammonium phosphate, MAP, MAP. I would probably apply that. Carbonex in the summer. I don't know what turf type you have. I don't know your growing conditions. It is totally possible, but I don't know because I don't know what you're dealing with. I'm sorry. Hi, Matt. I have a fungus dollar spot brown patch in my lawn. I sprayed 14.3 propiconazole this week. Can I apply fertilizer to speed up growth, or do I need to wait it out? Turf type tall fescue. Do you have both dollar spot and brown patch in your lawn? Because if you do, then you definitely, if you've got brown patch, you don't want to apply a whole lot of fertilizer in combination with it. You can do it in a small amount. So like 1/10 of a pound and then maybe even up to 2/10 of a pound in, then you're really starting to flirt with that brown patch right there. So you can, just make sure it's a very low rate when you do it, right? Especially if you're dealing with brown patch. If you're dealing with dollar spot, you can be a little more aggressive. If you're dealing with brown patch, remember, excess nitrogen will contribute to the development and flourishing of the brown patch. Hello, I'm in Fort Worth too. I overseeded my Bermuda with perennial rye and it's still not dead. Plus 90 degrees continuously. Is this normal? I love the rye. Yeah, Manny, that is totally normal. I always tell people if you seed perennial ryegrass, you have to spray it out. Perennial ryegrass has been modified genetically so much that it is tolerating the worst of the conditions. What you'll notice is that you'll see a 50% reduction in your perennial rye population, but you're going to have that 50% that continues to stay green through the entirety of the summer. I've seen it kill entire sports fields. So always spray it out. That should be just part of the maintenance plan. Spray it out in April, May, and then seed it again in September. That's just how you deal with perennial rye. Spray it out, regrow your Bermuda, and then seed it again in the fall if you got to have green grass over the winter. Matt, what are the over-unders on Pete for GCI Turner completely switching over to Kentucky Bluegrass? He really likes it. I do not know, VW. I'm going to take the under on that. I say there's about a 10% chance he makes that complete transition. I just don't think Pete is a complete kind of guy. He's too experimental. He's going to tinker with it and figure out the best of both worlds if I know him as well as I think I know him. Seed heads. My lawn has been full of seed heads this year. I have overseeded 2 of the last 3 years. Is this related to the seed heads? Also, is cheap Kentucky Bluegrass likely to contain more POA? Okay, let me address this one by one. Seed heads. It has nothing to do with you seeding. That is just a natural process of Kentucky Bluegrass and tall fescue and Bermuda grass and Zoysia grass and St. Augustine grass and centipede grass and Bahia grass. They all go to seed at different times of the year based on different conditions. For instance, if it's still too cool at night here and it's still too warm during the day, Bermuda grass gets into this wonky state where it doesn't know what to do because daytime temperatures is like, I want to grow, and then nighttime temperatures is like, whoa, slow down. And it just freaks the plant out. And so what does it start doing? It starts sending all that carbohydrate production into reproduction. And so it'll start pushing out seed heads. It's the same thing would happen with Kentucky Bluegrass. At nighttime, your temperatures are probably prime for Kentucky Blue. Daytime is starting to get a little hot. Soil moisture levels start to fluctuate pretty quickly in the day. You start kicking in these systemic SAR response, systemic abiotic response within the plant. And what's it going to do? It's going to go to seed. It's thinking, I got to reproduce. And so you get seed heads. And that's just the fact of dealing with grass, really. Okay, cheap Kentucky Bluegrass likely to contain more POA. Yes. And here's why. Kentucky Bluegrass is POA pratensis. POA annua is POA annua. Annual bluegrass. Kentucky Bluegrass. They're all POA families. So a lot of times if you don't have a clean field and they're doing seed production, then that's the nature of it. It's going to be in there. It'll be the same thing to be in fescue because annual bluegrass is not considered a noxious weed. They're not going to list it on the label either. You have to look at that section that says other grasses or other weed seeds or other seeds or other material. All of that fits into the whole deal there because all of that could be POA, annua. When molasses help speed up the process for sulfur to break down into sulfuric acid to lower soil pH. The idea being molasses feeds bacteria, gets them excited, then breaking down the sulfur. So getting sulfur into a sulfuric acid state, I don't know. That's beyond my level of chemistry knowledge, Jonathan Brothers. I would think the sulfur being in contact with water would help that action happen faster more than anything. But maybe a combination of the two, of molasses and a wetting agent, would help that conversion into the sulfuric acid. Chip Dixon, how soon can you apply tenacity to centipede seedlings? I do not know the answer. If you feel safe to, I would probably test a small area of it and see what it does. Just take you a small 1x1 section and spray it and then blah, blah, blah. And check it out. Look at this. J Fireball. Matt, after you become rich and famous from Carbon X. Well, that's just it. I'm not. And the reason being is that there's a lot that has to go into it. We're a startup. We have investors that we have to please. And this is not a short play for us, and it's going to be a long, hard, scrapping battle because we got a plant, but let me tell you, we bootstrapped that plant from every which way imaginable. So I'm going to continue to do this because this is what I like to do. AKT, the comedy show, what's going on, sir? KLW, what's the deal with the pre-em barrier? Will weed roots die top up as well as bottom up? If weeds are still germinating, could you apply? Yes, if weeds are still germinating, you could apply. Weed roots, when you apply a pre-em barrier, does not kill weed roots. What happens is, as the weed germinates and it begins to push that initial seedling into the soil, it hits that pre-em barrier and it prevents the tacking down of that root. And so that root is never able to find water for that plant to be able to thrive. So you can apply it while weeds are still germinating, and then once that pre-em barrier becomes in the soil and active, anything that germinates from that point forward will potentially be affected by it. So, yeah, you can, and it's not going to work on plants that are already there. It is a pre-emergent, before it emerges, before it germinates. It has to be in the soil and working. Can you do a special event for fungus identification? Picking the right fungicides helps, but specific fungus require either foliage or watered-in plants. Yes, I can do that. The lawn strife, stop it. Stop it, sir. Unnecessary. Yeah, I can, Gary, and because I'm not in the field as much anymore, it's hard for me to go and find all these specific instances of diseases, but I could probably do it with pictures off of the internet and show you the identifying factors that I would look at when I see them. I think my camera is a little squirrely on the focus there. That's what I get for using a Sony. All right. What do you recommend for dealing with grubs in cool season? Easy. I recommend Acelepryn. It is very forgiving and it works extremely, extremely well 100% of the time. Daniel McCrae, what do you think about Super Juice for residential use for the homeowner? Yeah, it's fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do, I will say this, that per application, you got about 1/10 of a pound of N for your application. So if you feel like applying it every week, I think it's a great product. If you don't feel like applying literally every 7 days, then I would probably look into something a little different. I just sprayed quackgrass in my fescue today, as well as the triclopyr fusillade. I just sprayed quackgrass in my fescue. Oh, yeah, you should. Well, you should be good. Let me know how that works. Matt, do you think my Zoysia would prefer PBR or Miller Lite in a detached mix? I have both. I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb and say Miller Lite. And the reason being is that I would much rather enjoy drinking a PBR than I would a Miller Lite. And I'm sorry for everybody I made mad about that. Let's see here. I'm going to keep going. I jumped to the bottom. Look at this. Ronald Parrish, finally getting subscribers. Finally! I'm 4 years in and I'm starting to get it. I had to delete a whole bunch of videos too. Northeast Ohio, lots of bentgrass in lawn was the best way to control it. Casey, it's always going to be a nightmare. I'll tell you that right now. Probably your best bet, and you're not going to like this, is a combination of both Pilex and Tenacity. Multiple applications of it. I don't think you're going to find anything better than that, and even then, you're probably still going to have some breakthrough. Even if you add glyphosate to that mix, you will probably have some breakthrough the next year. It's just tough to deal with. So, as a minimum, I would probably start with Tenacity and Pilex in a tank mix. Douglas Blacksill was busy on YouTube looking at old videos. One talked about using soda and beer as a tonic. I get the beer aspect, but does sugar really benefit the turf? Simple sugars, no, is not directly going to benefit the turf. But what it will do is that it will temporarily stimulate microbial activity in the soil. So, you can put soda on the soil. Is it going to be a big benefit using soda and beer? Probably not. There's better things to use out there other than soda. One of them being blackstrap molasses. Actually does have real agronomic value due to the calcium and sulfur content that are in it. And you can apply it at 16 ounces to the acre, upwards to 24 ounces to the acre, get an actual visual response from applying it too. So I would not use soda. I would use molasses, as that actually has real agronomic value. I have dead seed stalks in my Kentucky bluegrass in New Jersey. How do I get rid of them? Mow them out. Take it as low as you can when you mow it, and you will get rid of them. And I know you're not supposed to scalp Kentucky bluegrass and rye. I know. Do it anyway. Can you use PGRs on turf-type tall fescue with good results? I guess, yes. I've never had great luck with T-necks, but I've never had a situation where I'm not dealing with brown patch in turf-type tall fescue. So even at low rates at 16 ounces to the acre with Trinaxapac, I have dinged turf-type tall fescue. So I've never done it successfully. I will say this, I'm doing it right now in my front yard, and I will update you as I have more information about it. But right now, I don't feel confident those results I'm seeing are the norm. So I want to let it develop a little bit further before I get too deep into what I recommend or what I see on it. Ornament over the top. I got a mix of Kentucky bluegrass and perennial ryegrass. I fertilize regularly and throw the next products down. I've seen it thicken up a lot, but still thin spots, and that's where the quack is. I would try the Ornament over the top. Continue to stay on your fertilizer program. You mentioned that Azoxy can make dollar spot worse. Is that true as well if you run the custom headway mix with PPZ? No, because you do get dollar spot control from the propiconazole portion of the mix with headway. Again, if you're dealing purely with dollar spot, I would probably just run a different fungicide altogether. But you're going to be fine to spray that. You're not going to make your dollar spot worse, and chances are you'll probably get it knocked out. Matt, same question. Lushy, same question, same answer applies to you. So Mrs. Lawn Stripes wants to know, what do your kids do when you've sprayed the lawn? I keep the kids' lawn off for a while after I spray, and she hates me for it. So what I do is I keep the kids off until the lawn is dry. Once it is dry, the kids are allowed to get out there and get back on the lawn. If I'm really worried about it, or I'm spraying some really bad stuff, and really bad stuff to me would be like an insecticide like bifenthrin, or if for whatever reason I have not done this in many, many years, but if I sprayed the yard with acephate and organophosphate, I would not let the kids on the yard until I watered it in and it had a chance to get off the leaf surface. But 99.9999999% of the time, I'll wait till the lawn is dry and then allow them to go back out. And when they come back inside, rinse their feet off. My wife is very Japanese, if you didn't know, and clean feet is a very serious thing culturally with her. So when the kids are outside and when they come back in, they got to wash their feet. Can't wear shoes in our house, and that's just kind of our practice. So it fits in with what we do, whether I'm spraying anything or not spraying anything on the lawn. But typically, if an herbicide or something has been sprayed on the lawn, I wait till it's dry. Then they can go out and have fun. Hey, Matt, any chance you could switch your live shows to Saturday night so you could be a loser like me at the computer? I would, B-Ruck. I totally would, because I would totally be that guy at the computer. However, my wife always has plans for us on Saturday. And she comes in, and it's one of those things, too, where she teaches at Maryville College, a program for the Japanese children there. And she comes home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's like, come on, what are you doing? We got to go. We got to go. We got to go. And I'm like, ah! So I probably can't do Saturday night. It would have to be at like midnight or later, and I would be out of control. I don't see any temperature restrictions for Celsius certainty on the labels. Temps reaching 90s down here by noon will be an issue for AM application, or better to apply after 6 p.m. As long as you apply before the heat of the day, you're okay. So, for instance, if you apply at 6 a.m. and it's 80 degrees outside and your temperature restriction is 90 degrees, you can apply it when it's 80 degrees. So it's the temperature at the time of application, not the temperature of what the high is on that day. Frez, yes, is here. What is going on, good sir? Mr. Doomla in the house. Hey, Matt, been throwing down Lesco 2408 with 4% iron on my Tifway 419. Seems to have a mixture of dark and bright green through the lawn. I am making horizontal and vertical passes. Any idea on why it's not consistent? It probably has to do with the fact that the iron is not homogenized in that product. It's a blended product. And so if you have 50 pounds, let's say you have 10 granules per pound, and you've got 24% of them are nitrogen. So if you've got 500 total granules in the bag, it's just hypothetical math here. Hypothetical math. If you've got 500 total granules and 24% are nitrogen times 0.24, 500 times 0.24, that means you've got, man, why am I unmathing? You've got 120 nitrogen prills. You've got a third less. So what would that be? 40 potash prills, and then you got 2% iron prills. Hold on, 2, and you've only got 10 iron prills in it. This is why I love homogenized fertilizers. This is why we homogenize as many of our Carbon X products as we can. So Carbon X is a blend of 2 homogenized products. So that way we have very, very equal prill distribution when you apply it. Prill size and all that stuff come in and they make an effect on it, but really when it comes down to it, if it's just 4 different ingredients or 6 different ingredients blended in the bag, and especially if you have real low turf, so if you real cut your 419, and then you could particularly see a big difference by using a homogenized fertilizer, because you can have exactly that happen. Now, I'm not saying that's 100% what happened there. I'm just guessing based off what it is. It could also be spots where you have like gravel distributed in your soil, and that's called leading, it may be limestone gravel, and so you've got super high pH in those areas, and that's why it's losing its color. It could be getting chlorotic, but if I had to guess, with 2% iron in it, it just has to do with prill distribution, and this is why I don't like blended fertilizers all that much. Hi Matt, I've got down 1 amp of Quali-Pro prodiamine 0.36 WSB, and I also have Anderson's prodiamine granular at 3 pounds per 1,000. How can I add a granular with the 1 amp of liquid already put down in May? So it will give you a rate of active ingredient per pound per 1,000 square feet on your Anderson's product. So your best bet would be look at how much active ingredient you applied with your 0.36 WSB, and then how much active ingredient you're looking to apply per pound per 1,000 square foot of your Anderson's, and then find out what your math is, then make sure you're within your yearly limit. So if you need to get down 1 pound of active ingredient, you can look at the 2 and say, okay, well, I need 6 pounds of granular and, my 1 ounce rate of the 0.36. Those are hypothetical numbers. Don't take that. I'm not looking at the label. Matt, what is the best way to get rid of centipede out of Bermuda? Monument is the easiest way. Monument works extremely well on centipede. Let's see. There are others. Revolver, when it's green, will work. Yeah, I would probably say those 2 would be ideal. Thanks. I think I have leaf spot and brown patch. Will RGS help grow it out? It's only been 4 weeks since I fertilized, and I guess with the heat coming on, it wouldn't be good to hit it with fert again. RGS may help grow it out. That potential is there. Second app with Carbon X is down. My Bermudas never looked so good. Thank you, T. Winnings. Thank you, sir. What water schedule would you recommend of an irrigation system when trying to plant Bermuda from seed? I would recommend probably 4 to 6 times a day for about 3 to 6 minutes per zone. I don't know what your flow rate is, and so there's a million different variables. But again, you want to keep it moist, not to the point of runoff. Moist, but not wet. Matt, which West Coast could use Carbon X? It is coming soon. We're about to open the floodgates on it, and I'll have to leave it at that. But I will say that is actively being pursued extremely aggressively. I'm in Florida trying to get Bahia out of my St. Augustine. I would use metsulfuron methyl, Daniel McRae. Metsulfuron methyl, and if you've never heard it, I will say it again right now. When you're using MSM, the application rate is in ounce per acre, 1 ounce per acre, 0.5 ounces per acre. And this is a general rule of thumb. A ½ ounce per acre, not per thousand, per acre. A ½ ounce per acre kills weeds. 1 ounce per acre, not per thousand, per acre, kills trees. 2 ounces per acre kills the soil. Sweat over that for a little bit. Think about it. It's a real deal herbicide. Revolver will smoke perennial ryegrass, Frez. Yes, sir. What can I use to kill Dallas grass in a Bermuda grass lawn? This is very easy, Jake Birch. I did a whole video series about it. Now there are new products out there like manuscript herbicide. But what I did was I did a blanket application. I'm repeating it for the second time tonight. A blanket application of Monument herbicide, followed by a blanket application of Tribute Total, followed by a blanket application of Tribute Total in Bermuda grass, and it killed all my Dallas grass. What can I use to kill Morning Glory in cool season grass? Something that contains fluroxypyr or triclopyr or a combination of fluroxypyr and triclopyr will knock it out easily. Do you know anyone that would be an expert in landscape perennials for Zone 3B? No, I would not, Gravy, but if you want to play, I'll play that game with you here for a little bit. Let me hop on up here. I'm going to keep going. It's 10:06. I'm having too much fun. We're going to keep going. What is the best way to kill ground ivy? Creeping Charlie. Aaron Taylor, I did a whole video on broadleaf weed controls, and one of the studies I particularly looked at was ground ivy and creeping Charlie. Fluroxypyr is the best performer on ground ivy and creeping Charlie. I recommend you seeing that video. Miller Lite is garbage. If I add sand to my clay soil and then burn my lawn, will it make bricks? That's funny, Phil. No, it will not make bricks. For those of you, if anybody here is wondering if they should top dress with sand and they're nervous about it because they're worried about making concrete or clay, that is not how it works. You're missing a key vital portion in that, and that's Porter cement. Porter cement is what makes concrete concrete. Don't go down that road. Just get your sand out and be done with it. Be done with it. Pure sugar is a major environmental hazard. That is right. Man, I keep knocking my camera around. Matt, serious question. Found some torpedo grass in my Zoysia this week. Can I spray quinclorac even though the high temperatures? Yes. How many amps will it take? A couple. But yes, feel free. Go ahead. Get after it. You'll be fine. Hey, Matt, been trying to get rid of Bermuda in my tall fescue. There's anything generic Pilex? No, there is not. But you may want to use Ornamec over the top that contains Flazopop. How can I get Bahia grass out of St. Augustine grass? Methylfuron methyl. Going to roll Celsius 0.113, certainly 1.25 per gallon of H2O. Or do I need 2 gallons for this mix? Certainty label recommends 2 gallons. Can I use dish soap for surfactant? Yes, you can use dish soap. And it's totally up to you. I know what the label recommendations are, but I'll tell you right now, in my experience, I've sprayed Certainty at 11 gallons per acre for the better part of 6 years with no issues. Same with Celsius. So I do not like all that carrier volume stuff for something like an herbicide, as long as your droplet size is adequate. Hey, Aaron Taylor, my wife's Japanese. Also, Nihonjin desu ka? I would ask, do you speak Japanese? But Nihongo, I don't know. That's all I know. My wife's from Yokohama. If you've ever been over there, it's always a good time. I pruned up the hedge on the back fence today. There was white crystals at the branch nose. The hedge seems healthy. I have pics if you need them. Yes, I do. I would love to see that. My wife says, wash your feet. You can do the live stream on Fridays before she gets on you, before the booze wears off. I don't think so. New home and seeded lawn with a mix of Bermuda and rye and millet. Grass is up and filling in slowly. When can I overseed Bermuda? Also, I'm in Georgia. Temps are in 90 with weekly rain. This is what I would do. If you're going to seed Bermuda into that, kill all that crap first. A mix of Bermuda, rye, and millet. I would spray out the rye and millet, so I would apply a selective herbicide like Revolver or Monument to get rid of that rye and millet. Fertilize the Bermuda grass real heavily. See where you've got Bermuda, and then plan on seeding in those areas that go bare. Jeremy Swatkins with late roll call. AV guy in the shoes. A Celeprint is expensive, but it works. How much to put down 4th of July Lambo Leaper, a bag of Carbonex? I believe Alan did some pretty extensive videos on rates. At 3 pounds per 1,000, you would be at what? 10.5 pounds on your front yard, something like that. Maybe 13, it feeds 16, right? It depends on what rate you want to put it down. If you want a pound of N, you could put it down at 4 pounds a 1,000. You would want to put down 14 pounds. You can do that as well. It's totally up to you on what you're looking to get done, Lambo Leaper. Yard Mom, I did not see your question. Ask it again, and I will answer it. I cannot scroll to the top on this. Matt only skips Gravy's questions. Matt, if I have dollar spot, can I spray 1500 Iron Boost throughout the summer? Yes. Also, will using organic humic acid and organic liquid kelp aggregate dollar spot? No. It might help push growth, which could hide the dollar spot, but it's not going to take away the dollar spot. Iron has shown, when applied preventatively, can mitigate the development of dollar spot, but it's not 100% perfect in every scenario. For instance, guys in Indiana right now are being absolutely smoked by dollar spot, even though they are doing things like applying kelp and humic acid and iron religiously to try and mitigate that. But they are still running into issues with it. So it's a good start, Ken, but it's not a guarantee. Don't be led into a false sense of security about it. Paul Manicone says, hey, Matt, you mentioned I can use phosphite, not phosphate, phosphite with methanoxam for Pythium. Can they be tank mixed together, or do they need to go down separately? Also, do they have to be watered in? Thanks. Paul Manicone, yes, you should water them in, but you don't have to do it immediately. Give it a few hours before you do water it in, or wait till that night before you water it in. Here's the other thing. Can you tank mix it? I believe so, but there should be a section in the methanoxam label that speaks specifically about phosphite. If it's not on the methanoxam label, it is in the Subdue Max label, which is the same active ingredient. What are you doing, Lushy? I don't need that. I don't need that, and I don't need an air mattress for there either. Hang on, let me go back up here. We skip down. What's up, Ben? The Lawn Guardian. Let's see. MSM is some mean stuff. Yes, it is, and there it is, the rant. What did you ask, John? Can you tell Brett? If I'm not mistaken, Dallas grass is fuzzy lighter green and seeds closer to the leaves. Something like that. Matt, how long into the summer do I need to treat for fungus? Central North Carolina. Okay, this is a pretty not easy question to answer because you have to look at when you should treat for fungus as long as you have conditions that are favorable for the development of the fungus you're treating for. So typically what I would recommend doing is look at your disease pressure plus your history. If you have a history of not having disease in that yard, even though you have had high disease pressure, then there's no reason to treat for fungus in that yard until you have the development of disease. If you have a history of brown patch in that yard because of the cultivar you have or whatever the case may be, and it always comes back, and you can nail it down to the hour that you can start to find it in your yard, then yeah, it makes sense to do so preventatively. How long into the summer? As long as the conditions are present for the development of the disease. How long will that be? I don't know. I can't say. But for instance, brown patch, if you're over 85 during the day and over 60 at night, you're in peak season if you have adequate soil moisture. So you have to do it for as long as those conditions are present. Is using a group 1 and group 3 fungicide together okay and or recommended? I have fungus problem in cool season lawn and plan on using Clear's 3336 and Eagle because I already have it on hand. Yeah, Paul, you certainly can do that. One thing to keep in mind is that those do not have long residuals, so you'll be applying every 2 weeks or so. Chase Mathis, moving into new construction home in January. Lawn will be laid with dormant Bermuda sod. I'm in North Georgia. Can I put down pre-emergent in the spring or wait till fall? I would wait to see how it comes out of dormancy first, then apply it. Is it ever too hot to put out Carbon X? Can Carbon X ever burn a lawn? Carbon X can burn a lawn if you over apply it. And it's not the heat that will cause the issue with Carbon X directly. It would have to do with the rate of Carbon X in combination with the heat and moisture. So it's a 3-part series that. Can Carbon X burn a lawn? Yes. Is it ever too hot to put out Carbon X? No, as long as you adjust your rate accordingly for the heat you're dealing with. So for instance, if it's 99 degrees outside and you're dealing with fescue and you put it out at a 1/4 pound or a 1/2 pound of N, you're not going to burn the lawn. If you put it out at 2.5 pounds of N and it's 99 degrees outside, you're going to smoke it to the dirt. So just like you would apply a bag of Scots, you would approach the same way with something like Carbon X. Any chance you may be continuing your All About Herbicide series? Yes, I would. And every time I go to record that, I get caught up on phone calls that take up the rest of my day. And typically the phone calls I'm having to deal with are way more important than me getting out those videos for the time being. But yes, I will get going on those again because I really enjoy making those videos too. My wife's from Okinawa. Just got back from visiting her parents. They have a real low Bermuda lawn. That is awesome, Aaron Taylor. I follow a lot of those real low guys in Japan on Instagram, and it is a ton of fun. I love what they're doing. I have new palmetto sod. Laid it down 3 weeks ago. I have a nut sedge problem. When can I spray and pray? Now. You can now. Whoa, Terry Fish, that is unnecessary, sir. Cut that out. We don't need it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Terry. I'm going to throw down Carbon X for the first time on Bahia. Have you seen any results of Carbon X on Bahia before? I have not. So please feel free to shoot those to me at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. And if those of you are ever looking at how to get a hold of me outside of the live stream, just real quick, I'm going to ping this up over here. I lurk. I don't actively participate, but I'm lurking over at thelawndiscord.com. And the reason being is that the guys there typically know more than I do about maintaining turf. That is a real low community. So you can find me at thelawnforum.com. You can also find me at the show after the show and the show before the show and the 247 show on the private Discord channel at thelawn.discord.com. That is a lawn forum Discord channel that comes from thelawnforum.com, where I am a regular member and contributor and actively participate in. You can also shoot me an email at thegrassfactor@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at thegrassfactor if you want to see a little bit of behind the scenes into my life, my wife, my kids, and the fun stuff and just silly things we do while we're out and about. And maybe take a picture with my 3-year-old or my 6-year-old, then you can check it out over on Instagram. And now, back to the show. Let's see, as long as you're not... I have a really hard time identifying different fungi. That is something we can do. I think we can do that. It's not... it comes more with experience than it does the book. I have to say that. Us guys in Indiana need to build an ark. Yeah, you do, man. I've never heard of that much rain before in my life. Tons of red thread up there in the Northeast. Witness, is that in the Northeast or in Nebraska this season? I know typically I've got Picture Perfect Lawn Maintenance on YouTube. Typically deals with a lot of red thread, and they had a pretty short red thread season this year. So that worked out pretty well. And for those of you that would like to go check out those guys, I absolutely love what they're doing. Even though they are Carbon Earth Products users, I think just what they do from a business standpoint is just really awesome to check out. I have to say, Katie, who runs their YouTube channel, is just doing absolutely phenomenal. Brandon and Jimmy Cox too. I mean, I love what they do. Everybody go over there and subscribe to them and show them some love. They deserve it because they put in a lot of effort and they do really, really good work in the lawn care community. And I'm so proud of those guys. Hey, I appreciate that, Gab Bond. You have a water mattress. Sounds like carbon deck should be a good option going forward, so why does it seem not to be recommended during the summer, and what is the shelf life? Shelf life is going to be 6 months to a year, something like that, and it can be applied in the summer. It just depends on where you are. So transition zone, you may want to run into something where you're putting down just lower in, or if you're up further north, say like Indiana, and you can apply in during the summer, then you definitely can. So when you see recommendations not for summer, it typically would have to do with just where you're located and the grass you're trying to grow based on your location. That may be hyper local more so than just a broad spread answer. Greencast can give decent miles for disease pressure. That is true. That is very, very true. For those of you that do not have an account with Greencast, there's an app called Greencast, and you can also visit them at Greencast Online. And it will monitor your weather, and you can set alerts for dollar spot and other diseases and tell you when you have high probability for the development of disease. Matt, I live in Louisville, and I'm getting hit with dollar spot as well. When using kelp and humic, would I keep mowing at regular height or lower mower to try and cut it out? You would continue mowing at lower height. Again, humic and kelp would be one part of the equation. The other part would be try to get a little nutrition on it. Ken, if you pull the soil test, I would bet $100 right now that you are low in potassium. That typically correlates with high development of dollar spot as well. Get some potassium on the yard. Go get a bag of 0050 and put it down. Yard Smart, we have had so much rain this year, so I have leaf spot everywhere. Is applying nitrogen along with humic acid and kelp to push new growth out? We're getting this question a lot. Is it enough for leaf spot? No, probably not. Is it enough for dollar spot? Maybe. If you're dealing with leaf spot, helminthosporium, previously known as that, you probably need to get a fungicide down or pray for it to stop raining. Either one of those will help correct that. With leaf spot, you can apply nitrogen. You're not going to hurt anything by doing that. So, and then the also missing piece in all this, and I should have said it way before now, but I'm going to go ahead and say it now. When you're dealing with extreme disease outbreak like that, you gotta start making sure you're balancing the soil. And I get, yes, you're applying humic, yes, you're applying kelp. That's great, and that's great for soil structure, and that's great for biostimulating the plant. But make sure you are not actually in a deficient setting. And I've looked at probably 600 soil tests so far this year, and I've seen maybe 20 of them that were not deficient in potassium. And potassium is going to work through water regulation in the plant. It's also going to help with stress mitigation within the plant. So those potassium pathways also work for communication and SAR response within the plant as well. So it's important you do not overlook potassium deficiencies, especially when you're dealing with disease. Get that fixed immediately. Okay, keep mowing high. Lower grass heights can let the dollar spot take out more of the grass blades. I understand that adding bluegrass to fescue for self-healing effects, but why add fescue to a Kentucky bluegrass lawn? Santiago Rivas? I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. I've now heard Bahia pronounced 7 different ways. Long time said Bahehe, and now I say Bahihi, and I'm like, that is funny. All right, let's see here. Tons in the Northeast Connecticut. Look at that. Been to Okinawa several times. Red Thread has been a monster this season. The Green Monster at Fenway may need to be renamed the Red Thread Monster. Do you think you will sell some to Lesco? Probably not, and it's not really for any other real reason that we talked to Lesco about Carbonex, and they basically said, yeah, good luck. That's a great idea, guys. Good luck. High five. Was a little bit their response. I think they told us that we need about 10 years of growing up before they would ever work with us. We're not well received in the fertilizer industry because we're the new guys and we're young and we're looked down upon. I'll just say it like that to put it nicely. Seeing larger, slightly yellow spots in my lawn this summer. Very high iron on my soil test. Any ideas? Yeah, so you're dealing with centipede and you're very high on iron and you're still chlorotic. Chances are it could have to do with soil temperatures. So if you're a little bit cooler than normal, I've seen a centipede go through this period where it goes through this yellowing portion. It would be really hard for me to say, though, without looking at it. I would check your sulfur levels. Make sure your sulfur levels are good, and make sure you have acidic soil. Centipede is going to perform better on acidic soil. I feel like I've seen your soil test, Terry, but I can't recall off the top of my head. Feel free to email it to me because I don't have a surefire answer on that. The mini lawn, should I verticut scarify my El Toro Zoysia to help thicken it up? Uneven, thin areas, is it necessary? Also, is manually stepping on an edge cutter spade produce the same result versus machine? Yeah, stepping on an edge cutter spade, no, does not produce the same result as a scarifier or verticutter. Not at all. Two totally different beasts there. Should you? If you do not reel cut your grass, absolutely. I think it'd be a great thing to do. If you don't reel cut your El Toro Zoysia, I recommend you begin doing that, Ray. That one's for you, buddy. That one's for you. How should I deal with cool season die-off in common Bermuda lawn right now here in California? Just let it go because you're not going to be able to save it. The condition shifted to the development of common Bermuda, so just let it go. Where would I be able to find a 0050? That's a 0050 sulfate of potash. Any of your local turf suppliers should have it, or do a quick Google search. You should be able to find it just about anywhere. Who do you like for doing soil tests? I like Ward Laboratories out of Nebraska. I also like Midwest Labs. We use those. We also use Waters Ag out of Owensboro, Kentucky. I would stay away from like your local extension offices and stuff like that because typically they don't give you enough data on your soil test. So I would stick with one of the reputable labs. Midwest Labs is typically fine for what I do. And then, Waters Ag here. I'll show them off. I keep these on hand because we constantly send stuff off to them. And if you've never done it, this is what that looks like. Let me see if I can get that to focus. And so you can just pick what all you want to test for. Like this is for fertilizer, right? Because we send off our fertilizer 3 times a day to be tested for different analyses. And so, we fill this out and send it out with it. So, yeah, they can do all kinds of stuff for you. And, but yeah, Midwest Labs, Waters Ag, all of them, they'll do a good job. Let's see. Liquid aeration, like aerate, is supposed to drive down into the soil, if I understand right. Liquid dethatch sits above the soil and helps eat away at thatch. Using them together a conflict? I don't think so, because they're both going to be applied relatively foliarly, John Bank. And so if you look at what aerate does, so aerate is going to be a combination of potassium hydroxide plus a humic substance that is going to contain like lipids and lignins from plants, and so you react that with the KOH, and basically saponification takes place. It's like a precursor to a soap, right? And so it will help hold things right there in that root zone, like applying like baby shampoo would, right? So and then moving thatch, thatch is also going to sit somewhere right there around that area too. So if anything, it's just going to move that material to right there where that thatch is. So I don't see really any conflict there applying those two together. Is it the soil bacteria that digest the sulfur to convert it to sulfuric acid? So I'm thinking feeding the bacteria molasses, aka dethatch, should speed up the process. It sounds good to me, Jonathan. I would totally give it a whirl and see what happens. But I think, yeah, you're on fire. Run with it. Wife lost it hearing you do the MJ voice. I should never, ever do that again. Should never do that again. Getting some die off in spots of Palmetto St. Augustine. The side of my yard is shady and so look like nematodes. How do I know if it's nematodes? Sammy Ayala, you have to send it off for analysis. A university lab will have to test that out for you. And if it is, then you can, spend the money on a nematicide like Xteris and get rid of it. Would it be okay to apply 0050 during this time of year in St. Louis when temps are going to be 90, or should I wait until fall? You can apply it now, no problem at all. What's the easiest way for a rookie like myself to get a soil test done? I believe Alan on his website has the Soil Savvy thing, and that's not the best soil test, but that's a good start. The easiest thing to do would probably be to call Midwest Labs and request a soil test. Basically, you call them and say, what do you need from me to do a soil test? And they'll be like, okay, send us like 3 ounces of your soil and then log into our portal online, and we'll post your results there. So it's pretty easy. You get a 3-ounce sample, tell them you're mailing it, mail it, and then get your results. Also, watch lots of YouTube videos because there are a million videos out there about how to pull a soil test. Super easy. My neighbor is dealing with brown patch in his ryegrass. How can I help him out? Should he spray propiconazole? Should he cut his lawn lower? Need info, please. No reason to change or height of cut. That it's not going to have any effect on disease. Whoever came up with that, you just throw it all out the window. Height of cut is not going to affect disease. Should he spray propiconazole? Maybe. If his temperatures permit, yeah, he can spray propiconazole. But to get brown patch under control, first, make sure it's actually brown patch. Check the lesions. Make sure those lesions are actually brown patch, because a lot of times it may just be heat that is smoking the ryegrass and it looks like brown patch. So first, identify it correctly. It is brown patch. Then propiconazole will work okay. If it's real bad, what I would actually do is apply azoxystrobin and propiconazole in the same tank. Jonathan Brothers, I put down citric acid at 1 pound per 1,000 to lower pH faster, hopefully. I know it takes a long time to lower pH normally. Enjoying ideas. Yeah, man, you should be good. That's one of Ray's tricks there, to flush the excess carbonates or react with the excess carbonates and purge them from the soil, is 1 pound per 1,000 of citric acid. It has to be applied multiple times throughout the course of the year, not just once. But I would test it here in a few weeks and see what you're working with. 0050 is sulfate of potash. That is not a high salt index. The Lawn Guardian 0050 sulfate of potash is a very low salt index, and so you can apply it any time of the year. With just getting started on next biostem, is it best to do 3 ounces once a month, do you think? I'm a little late this season. I want to give it the best shot I can. Robert, I honestly don't know. I would probably reach out to Paul and see what he recommends. Oh, Paul Castleberry over at the Next DIY Lawn. So, homemade detached molasses and beer for yeast. Can I use yeast from the supermarket? Yes, you probably can. Have seen patches of very fine hair-like looking grass, very out of place, doesn't stand proud, more flat. Could this be a type of fine fescue? Stand consists of Kentucky bluegrass, fescue, and rye, 1 to 2 foot diameter patches. Yes, it could be fine fescue, or it could be bentgrass, Kevin Meyer. That's very popular, so check that out. That could be it. Hey, thanks, Robert Butler. Glad you tuned in. Army Football says, if anyone wants a deep green lawn, wouldn't overseeding with Midnight Kentucky Blue do the trick? Any sort of supplements added to the yard as maximum darkest green from turf type tall fescue is not that dark. No, maximum green from turf type tall fescue is plenty dark, and it may not look like exactly like Kentucky bluegrass, but some people can't grow Midnight Kentucky bluegrass, so you have to supplement your way into looking artificially dark. It's not to say that's the healthiest green to do with your grass, your healthiest thing to do with your grass, but that's what you unfortunately have to do because University of Tennessee researches bluegrass after bluegrass variety after bluegrass variety after bluegrass variety, and they continue to fail, all except the Barenberg Kentucky bluegrass that is actually extremely yellow. It is not green at all, and I'm trying to remember. That is called the Healthy HGT Healthy Growth Technology Barenberg Bluegrass. Is the only one they continually get to perform at University of Tennessee, and it looks like garbage. It is straight up yellow like Poa trivialis. Would you spray the 0050 as a granular or dissolve it in a spray? How much per app? If you're trying to correct a soil issue and say you're at 20 parts per million and your recommendation is to get up to 100 parts per million, so you need to move the needle 80 parts per million, and they recommend you do that with 2 pounds of actual potassium, chances are you're not going to be able to get that much to dissolve in a liquid. So that would be like 4 pounds in, a gallon or 2 gallons of water. You're probably not going to be able to get that dissolved in a liquid. So it's probably easiest just to spread it as a granular. Can I chop up a bunch of bananas and throw it in a spreader to get the same amount of potassium? No, the Lawn Fix. That does not work like that. I can't believe you'd even consider it. That's a joke. Does potassium help grass be more resistant to disease because it strengthens the cell walls in the plant? Yes, it does do that too. Well, I have run right out of the questions all the way to the bottom. I have no idea if anybody's even watching anymore because this is rare that I make it all the way to the bottom. So, real quick, before we head out, I'm going to do one more thing here. Again, if you need to contact me before, during, after the show, after the show, I will say this, that you can find me on thelawndiscord.com. That is our private Discord channel. You can check us out there. Or you can find me at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at thegrassfactor. And you can find me on the Lawn Forum where I tend to lurk instead of participate. But I do participate a fair amount on thelawnforum.com. We've got some more questions coming in, and here we go. What happens to the mulch grass weeks, months later after being cut and fallen in the lawn? Does it dry out and turn into thatch? Potentially Army Football, but usually what happens is the microbial action is going to gravitate to it, right, and begin to digest it and turn it into organic matter that gets mineralized and then ultimately turns back into carbon that goes back into the soil. So 99% of it gets recycled. However, if you've got 6-inch tall grass and you come in and you cut it down to 1 inch, that's a lot of material and it's going to build up and it's going to take way too long for it to break down. The smaller the particle size, the faster it's going to break down. Same thing works with lime. Same thing works with fertilizer. They all kind of work together like that. So if your clippings are really, really, really small because you're only cutting just a little bit off the top every time you mow, that breaks down and does not have time for it to convert into thatch. Too much K is not really a problem, Lambert, but there is a point of diminishing return where you can continue to apply it. You're not going to really get any effect from it. Over potassium may block out some micronutrients of hair. So you've got calcium, magnesium, and potassium that all kind of play in and around the same space because of their charges and the way they react with exchange sites in the soil. So you don't want to go overboard with it. So it's best, but typically, so for every 2 parts of nitrogen your turf grass takes up, 1 part of potassium will be taken up. So if you apply 2 pounds of N, then you probably want to apply 1 pound of K, because that's how your grass is going to take it up. Somewhere around there. Scraping the bottom. Makes banana with super juice. There you go. Matt, my neighbor applied Disease X to his ryegrass for his brown patch, getting extreme rain and humidity in Kentucky. Should he use spray instead of granite when dealing with disease? In my opinion, yes. Does he have to? No. I have a front lawn of pure Kentucky bluegrass and a side lawn of turf-type tall fescue. They have different genetic heights. Is it okay to cut the Kentucky bluegrass at 4 inches? Yes. Chinch bugs in St. Augustine, Florida. Best way to get rid of them in the summer, heat, rain. Acelepryn works well. You can also use like one of those 3-way combinations. Demand CS is going to be a good one. The cyhalothrin, permethrin works well. Bifenthrin is probably not going to work. How can you get 4-inch cut grass to stand up? It may be low in silica, so you can apply silicon dioxide to the grass, and that will increase the rigidity of the plant and help it stand up if you cannot get it to stand up. Chances are, too, it is probably deficient in potassium if it won't stand up. I'm going to start harping on potassium because I'm just seeing a lot of it. Again, stronger cell walls, water regulation, you're going to see better performance out of your grass if you have adequate potassium levels. What products do you recommend to help with the lack of potassium? Potassium, Sharon. I don't know any homeowner available products that are going to be good for potassium. Just type in the Google search bar on the shopping tab and type in sulfate of potash, and there you go. Real Mo Kentucky Bluegrass looks better than 4-inch Kentucky Bluegrass. Just ask Connor or John Falken about that. All right, everybody. Wait, whenever seeing should I cut my existing grass lower? You don't necessarily have to, but you can. It depends on what you're seeding into it. If it's fescue, it can do okay with low light. If you're dealing with Bermuda grass, yes, cut it lower. But you shouldn't be overseeding Bermuda grass to begin with, so I'm going to assume tall fescue. There we go. There's a lot of nutsedge in 2-week-old tall fescue. Go ahead and apply Solero or halosulfuron methyl, and you're okay to apply it now. Overall effectiveness, Anemo as a curative fungicide, 0. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it about a 0. Kentucky bluegrass, to get the tall fescue out, there's no selective herbicide to be able to do that. Potassium silicate, hey, great product for disease as well. Not necessarily, doesn't directly influence disease, but it does harden the plant, which in turn can indirectly help with the disease. Can you burn with liquid potash? Yes, if it's from potassium chloride, absolutely, you can burn it. If it is from sulfate of potash, probably not. Thanks, Telly. I practice often. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I had a ton of really good time. We've gone an hour and 42 minutes. This has gone on way too long. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. Take it easy.